They say the truth always comes to light. I just decided to turn up the volume. You know that moment when your entire world shifts and suddenly everything makes perfect sense. Not the good kind of sense, the kind that makes your stomach drop and your hands shake. That moment happened to me on a Tuesday afternoon in October, and it changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my career, and what I was capable of doing when pushed too far. My name is Michael, and I'd been married to Lauren for 12 years. We met in college, built our lives together, supported each other's careers. I worked as an IT manager for a tech consulting firm, and she climbed the ranks at Peterson & Associates, one of the city's top marketing agencies. We had a good life, a house in the suburbs, 2 cars, plans for kids someday. I trusted her completely. Lauren had always been ambitious, and I respected that about her. When she started working late more often about 8 months ago, I didn't question it. Marketing deadlines are brutal, and she'd always been dedicated to her work. When she mentioned her new boss, Christopher, I was actually happy for her. He was apparently brilliant, had connections throughout the industry, and seemed to appreciate her talents. "Chris really gets my vision," she'd say over dinner. "He's pushing for my promotion to senior account manager." I was proud of her, proud and completely clueless. The first real sign something was wrong came when my own career suddenly hit a wall. I'd been consulting for Peterson & Associates for 3 years, handling their entire IT infrastructure. It was steady work, good money, and I developed solid relationships with everyone there. Then, without warning, Christopher requested a meeting with my supervisor. "I'm sorry, Michael," my boss told me after that meeting. "Peterson & Associates is terminating our contract." Christopher claims there have been security concerns and professional conduct issues. Security concerns, professional conduct. I'd never had a single complaint in 15 years of IT work. I asked for specifics, for a chance to address whatever problems they'd identified, but the decision was final. Just like that, I lost 20% of my income and one of my most reliable clients. Lauren seemed genuinely surprised when I told her. "That's so strange," she said, shaking her head. "Chris never mentioned anything to me about IT problems." But something felt off about her reaction. She wasn't quite meeting my eyes, and there was a tension in her voice I couldn't place. Still, I pushed down my suspicions. I was hurt and confused, but I didn't want to drag my marriage into my professional problems. The second sign came 2 weeks later. Lauren got her promotion to senior account manager along with a significant raise. She was ecstatic, and I tried to be supportive despite my own career setbacks. We went out to celebrate, and she couldn't stop talking about Christopher and how he championed her advancement. "He really went to bat for me with the partners," she said, practically glowing. "He said I had exactly the kind of innovative thinking the company needed." That night, as she scrolled through her phone, I noticed she was texting someone late into the evening. When I asked about it, she said it was just work stuff, planning the transition into her new role. But she tilted the screen away from me, and when I woke up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, she was still typing quietly in the dark. The pieces started falling into place slowly, then all at once. Lauren began working even later, often not coming home until 9 or 10 p.m. She started traveling more for client meetings, always with Christopher. She became protective of her phone, taking it with her to the bathroom, sleeping with it under her pillow. When I suggested we plan a weekend getaway to celebrate her promotion, she said she was too busy with her new responsibilities. But the real breakthrough came from my IT background and a stroke of technical luck. Lauren had asked me months earlier to help her sync her work contacts with her personal phone for convenience. In doing so, I'd set up a cloud backup system that she'd completely forgotten about. Her text messages, call logs, and voicemails were automatically backing up to a shared family account. I want to be clear, I wasn't snooping initially. I was actually trying to help her recover some photos she thought she'd lost when I stumbled across the backup files. But once I saw the first message, I couldn't stop myself from looking deeper. The messages between Lauren and Christopher went back 6 months. They started professional, then became friendly, then flirtatious, and finally explicit. I sat in my home office at 11 p.m., reading conversations that destroyed my understanding of my own life. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning a future together. They talked about me like I was an obstacle to be managed. "Michael's getting suspicious about the late nights," she'd written. "Don't worry," Christopher had replied. "Once the Peterson contract is done, he'll be too busy scrambling for new clients to pay attention to what you're doing." They had orchestrated my firing. Christopher had fabricated the security concerns and professional conduct issues to eliminate me as a potential witness to their affair. They'd removed me from Lauren's workplace so they could operate freely. It wasn't just betrayal, it was calculated destruction of my livelihood to cover their tracks, but the messages revealed something else. They were both married. Christopher had a wife and 2 young children, and he was cheating on his family just like Lauren was cheating on me. The conversations showed they were planning to leave their respective spouses after the busy season ended, sometime after the holidays. As I read deeper, I found voice messages Lauren had sent to Christopher when she couldn't text safely. In one of them, recorded just a week earlier, she described in explicit detail what she really thought about our marriage. "I haven't loved him in years," her voice said through my laptop speakers. He's comfortable, but he's not exciting like you are. He doesn't challenge me or inspire me. I stay because it's easier than dealing with a divorce right now, but honestly, Chris, I can't wait to be done with this whole charade." I sat there in the dark, listening to my wife of 12 years casually dismiss our entire relationship. She talked about me like I was a piece of furniture she was tired of looking at but too lazy to replace. The cruelty of it was breathtaking, but anger, I learned, can be incredibly clarifying. Instead of confronting them immediately, I started planning. I copied everything: messages, photos, call logs, voicemails. I documented their affair with the same methodical precision I brought to IT projects. I also started researching Christopher's background and discovered something interesting. Peterson and Associates had strict policies against relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Both Lauren and Christopher could be terminated for their affair, especially given that he'd used his position to advance her career. The opportunity for revenge came in the form of Peterson and Associates' annual Christmas party. It was their biggest event of the year. Clients, employees, spouses, and industry partners all gathered in the ballroom of the downtown Marriott. Lauren had been excited about it for weeks, partly because she and Christopher were both receiving special recognition for their outstanding partnership in landing several major accounts. Lauren spent hours getting ready that evening, buying a new dress, getting her hair done professionally. She was radiant, practically bouncing with excitement about her big night. As I adjusted my tie in the bathroom mirror, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Tonight, everything would change. The party was exactly what I expected: elegant, crowded, filled with the kind of networking energy that makes marketing people thrive. Lauren immediately found Christopher, and I watched them interact with the careful distance of two people trying to hide their intimacy in public. They were good at it, I'll give them that. Professional smiles, appropriate space between them, no lingering touches, but I knew what to look for now, and I could see the electricity between them. The recognition ceremony began around 8 p.m. The company president gave a speech about Peterson and Associates' record-breaking year, then began acknowledging outstanding employees. When he called Lauren and Christopher to the front, they walked up together, beaming with pride. "These two have formed one of the most effective partnerships in our company's history," the president announced to applause. "Their collaboration has resulted in over $2 million in new business this year." If only he knew how collaborative they'd really been. I had positioned myself near the back of the room, close to the AV booth where the sound technician was managing the microphones and music. During my years servicing Peterson and Associates IT systems, I'd become friendly with Tony, their regular AV contractor. Earlier that evening, I'd casually mentioned that I had a special anniversary message I wanted to play for Lauren during the reception. "Just a little surprise," I'd told him, handing over a USB drive. "Could you help me out when I give you the signal?" Tony, being a good guy who remembered me from my IT work, had agreed without question. As Lauren and Christopher stood at the front of the room, accepting congratulations and posing for photos, I caught Tony's eye and nodded. He looked confused for a moment. This wasn't the romantic anniversary message he'd been expecting, but he was already committed. He plugged in the USB drive and pressed play. Lauren's voice filled the ballroom through the professional sound system, crystal clear and unmistakably hers. "I haven't loved him in years. He's comfortable, but he's not exciting like you are. He doesn't challenge me or inspire me. I stay because it's easier than dealing with a divorce right now, but honestly, Chris, I can't wait to be done with this whole charade." The reaction was immediate and devastating. 200 people, colleagues, clients, spouses, industry leaders, stood in stunned silence as my wife's recorded voice continued detailing her affair and her contempt for our marriage. Lauren's face went white, then red, then white again. Christopher looked like he was going to be sick, but I wasn't done. The recording continued with Christopher's voice responding, describing how they'd orchestrated my firing and planned their future together. The business implications became clear as the crowd heard him admit to fabricating grounds for terminating a vendor contract and using his supervisory position to advance his lover's career. The company president was the first to move, walking quickly toward the sound booth, but the damage was complete. In less than 3 minutes, I destroyed 2 careers, exposed a massive conflict of interest, and publicly humiliated the people who'd conspired to destroy my professional reputation. Lauren ran from the room, pushing through the crowd of shocked faces. Christopher followed, but not before I saw his wife, who I'd never met but recognized from the family photos on his social media, approach him with murder in her eyes. I walked out of that ballroom feeling something I hadn't experienced in months: satisfaction, not happiness exactly, but a deep sense that justice had been served. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Both Lauren and Christopher were terminated within 48 hours, with Peterson and Associates citing violations of company policy and professional misconduct. The recording became evidence in 2 divorce proceedings. Potential lawsuit from Christopher's wife regarding the misuse of company resources. Lauren moved out the following week. She tried to apologize, to explain, to somehow make me understand why she'd done what she did, but there was nothing left to explain. I'd heard her true feelings in her own voice, and I knew exactly who I'd been married to all along. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I kept the house, and Lauren paid me a settlement that more than covered the income I'd lost when she and Christopher destroyed my Peterson contract. I've since rebuilt my consulting business stronger than before apparently. The story of how I exposed corporate misconduct has become legendary in certain circles, and several companies have hired me specifically because they value IT professionals with integrity. Do I regret what I did that night? I've thought about this a lot. I could have confronted them privately. I could have filed for divorce quietly and moved on with my life. But they didn't just betray me, they actively sabotaged my career to cover their tracks. They cost me income, reputation, and months of stress and self-doubt. They made me question my own professional competence because it was easier than risking exposure. So no, I don't regret it. Sometimes people need to face the consequences of their choices in front of everyone who trusted them. Sometimes the truth needs to be turned up loud enough that nobody can pretend they didn't hear it. That Christmas party was 2 years ago. I'm in a good place now, better than good, actually. I'm dating someone new, someone who values honesty and treats our relationship like the partnership it should be. My business is thriving, and I've learned to trust my instincts when something feels wrong. Lauren, from what I hear, is working at a small firm across town and struggling to rebuild her reputation in an industry where everyone knows her story. Christopher moved to another state with his kids after his wife divorced him. I hope they've both learned something from the experience, but honestly, that's not my concern anymore. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. Sometimes it's best served at exactly the moment when people are celebrating the success they built on your destruction. Sometimes the perfect temperature for revenge is room temperature in front of 200 witnesses with professional audio equipment. The truth always comes to light. I just decided to turn up the volume.